Long ago, in the sacred Naimisha forest, a great gathering of sages took place. Under the guidance of the venerable sage Shaunaka, they had begun a mighty sacrifice that was destined to continue for 12 years. Day after day, the sacred fires burned brightly, and the forest echoed with prayers, chants, and discussions about wisdom, duty, and the mysteries of life. The sages sought knowledge that could illuminate the past, explain the present, and guide the future. As the sacrifice continued, a traveler approached the hermitage. He walked along the forest path carrying neither weapons nor riches. His wealth was of a different kind. He carried stories, memories, and the teachings of great masters. This traveler was Ugrashrava Sati, the son of Lamaharshana, renowned throughout the land as a teller of ancient histories and sacred traditions. Imagine that you are sitting among the young students gathered around the sacrificial fire. What would you hope to learn from a visitor like Sati? Would you wish to hear stories of heroes, discover the secrets of the universe, or gain wisdom for life's challenges? The sages themselves desired all these things, and they watched with great interest as the traveler drew near. When Sati arrived, the sages welcomed him according to the sacred customs of hospitality. They offered him water to wash away the dust of his journey and invited him to take a seat among them. Only after ensuring his comfort did they begin to ask questions. In ancient times, a guest was considered worthy of great respect and kindness. Always came before curiosity. Shaunaka greeted the traveler warmly and asked who he was and from where he had come. Sati bowed respectfully and introduced himself. He explained that he had traveled across many holy places, visited sacred sites, and listened to the teachings of wise men. He had come to the forest seeking the blessings of the assembled sages and hoping to share what he had learned during his journeys. Think for a moment, if a tired traveler arrived at your home after a long journey, what would you offer first? Food? Water? Questions? The sages believed that a guest's comfort came first, and only afterward did conversation begin. Their example reminds us that kindness is often the first step toward wisdom. Once Sati was comfortably seated, Shaunaka asked him about the remarkable things he had seen and the stories he had heard. Sati replied that he had recently attended the great snake sacrifice of King Janamejaya. There he had listened to an extraordinary history recited by the sage Vaishampana, one of the foremost disciples of the great sage Vyasa. The sages immediately became attentive. A disciple of Vyasa was a source of immense authority and wisdom. Sati told them that the history he had heard was no ordinary tale. It was the Mahabharata, the grand epic that contained stories of kings and warriors, sages and gods, families and kingdoms, triumph and tragedy. It was a story so vast that it seemed to contain the whole of human experience. Pause and consider this question. What allows a story to survive for thousands of years? Is it memorable characters, great adventures, important lessons, powerful emotions? The Mahabharata has endured because it contains all of these and more. Across countless generations, people have found within it reflections of their own struggles, hopes, and questions. The sages then asked Sati about the origin of this magnificent work. Sati explained that the epic had been composed by the sage Vyasa, who possessed profound wisdom and insight into the nature of the world. Vyasa gathered together histories, teachings, and sacred knowledge and shaped them into a single monumental work. According to tradition, the epic was so vast that no ordinary scribe could record it quickly enough. Therefore, Vyasa sought the assistance of Ganesha, who agreed to write down the verses as they were dictated. In this way, the Mahabharata was preserved and passed down through the ages. Imagine having to write 100,000 verses by hand. How long would such a task take? The legend of Vyasa and Ganesha emphasizes the extraordinary scale of the Mahabharata and the importance that ancient tradition attached to preserving its wisdom. Having heard of the epic's greatness, Shaunaka and the assembled sages made a request. They asked Sati to recite the Mahabharata in its entirety. They wished to hear the whole story from the very beginning, without omission. They wanted to understand the origins of the great families, the causes of the conflict, and the lessons hidden within the tale. Sati agreed. He told the sages that the story they were about to hear was unlike any other. It contained accounts of courage and fear, loyalty and betrayal, duty and desire. It spoke of mighty kingdoms, devastating wars, and the choices that shape human destiny. Above all, it explored questions that every generation must confront. What is righteousness? How should one act when duties conflict? What gives meaning to life? Before beginning the narration, Sati offered a traditional invocation. He bowed to Narayana, to Nara, the noblest among men, and to Sarasvati, the goddess of wisdom and learning. Through this invocation, he sought divine blessing for the telling of the story and for those who would hear it. Then, in the sacred stillness of Naimisha, a forest surrounded by sages and illuminated by the glow of the sacrificial fire, Ugrashrava Sati prepared to begin the greatest epic of ancient India. The listeners leaned forward in anticipation, eager to learn about the Pandavas, the Kauravas, Krishna, and the events that would lead to the great war of Kurukshetra. And so, with the blessing of the sages and the gods, the narration of the Mahabharata began.